My name is Jennifer, and I never imagined my life could change in a single moment. At 67 years old, I was content with the life I had built for myself. I lived in a small, cozy apartment in Brooklyn, surrounded by memories and things that comforted me. My days were filled with quiet routines, morning walks to the local market, afternoon tea in my favorite armchair by the window, and evenings spent watching the sunset over the skyline. I had become accustomed to me solitude, and honestly, I never thought needed anything more. But I was wrong. For as long as I could remember, I had always been fiercely independent. I raised my children on my own after my husband passed away many years ago. I made sure they had everything they needed, and now in my later years I enjoyed the peace that came with being alone. My friends would sometimes tell me that I was too independent for my own good, but I didn't mind. I was fine. That is until the day everything changed. It was an ordinary Wednesday when my neighbor Mrs. Jenkins knocked on my door to inform me about a minor plumbing issue in my apartment building. She mentioned that a handyman would come by to check it out. I didn't think much of it. Just another one of those things that happens when you live in a shared building. Later, that afternoon, the doorbell rang, and when I opened it, I saw a tall, broad-shouldered man standing on my doorstep with a toolbox in hand. His name was Marcus, and I could tell from his confident yet calm demeanor that he was experienced in his work. I expected someone older, perhaps in his 50s or even 60s, but Marcus appeared to be in his late 30s, maybe early 40s. He greeted me warmly, and despite his youth, I felt an immediate sense of trust in him. "Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Marcus, here to take care of the plumbing issue. I've heard you've been having some trouble with your sink," he said, offering a smile that felt both reassuring and sincere. "Please come in. It's been leaking for weeks, and I'm sure I've made it worse by trying to fix it myself." I replied with a chuckle. He set his toolbox down and followed me to the kitchen. As he worked, we exchanged casual conversation. At first, I asked about his work, how long he'd been in the business, and what made him pursue plumbing. I learned that Marcus had started out in engineering, but found himself more drawn to the hands-on work of fixing things, especially when it involved helping people directly. It was clear to me that Marcus was passionate about his work, and his attention to detail was remarkable. He didn't just fix the leak. He inspected every inch of the plumbing, ensuring everything was in top shape as he worked. I couldn't help but admire his confidence and the way he carried himself with such calm confidence. It was an air of confidence that I hadn't felt from anyone in a long time. After a while, he stood up and turned the faucet on, checking for leaks. To my relief, the sink was fixed, all set that should do it, he said with a pleased smile. "Thank you so much," I replied. "I'm glad it wasn't anything too complicated." Marcus smiled, packing up his tools. As he made his way to the door, I felt a sudden urge to keep the conversation going. I wasn't used to being around someone so engaging. "Would you like a cup of tea before you leave?" "I made a fresh pot," I asked, almost surprised by my own invitation. He paused for a moment, then nodded. "Sure, that sounds nice." We sat at the kitchen table, sipping tea in silence at first, but soon the conversation flowed easily, as if we had known each other for years. We shared stories about our childhood, our favorite hobbies, and how we had both ended up in Brooklyn. It felt natural, comfortable. It wasn't forced like the usual small talk I had with strangers. As the conversation continued, I felt an overwhelming sense of connection to Marcus. Something I hadn't experienced in a long time. I didn't feel rushed or like I needed to fill the space with constant chatter. There was just a quiet understanding between us. When he stood to leave, I suddenly realized that my life had been lacking moments like this for so long. My days were filled with work errands and the routines of an independent woman, but I had forgotten the beauty of human connection, the simple joy of sharing a conversation with someone who was genuinely present. "Take care, Marcus," I said, as he stepped out the door. After he left, I sat in my armchair, quietly reflecting on the time we had spent together. It wasn't just about fixing the sink. It was about how easily we had fallen into a natural rhythm, how simple moments could make a big difference in how we felt. I hadn't realized how much I had been missing, how much I had closed myself off from the world. In the following days, I couldn't shake the feeling of contentment that lingered after Marcus' visit. He had restored something in me that I didn't even know was broken. It wasn't just their pair work he had done. It was the human connection, the reminder that it's never too late to allow someone into your life. Marcus and I continued to talk over the phone, and eventually we met for coffee. We had long conversations, laughed, overshared stories, and discovered more mutual interests. It wasn't about romance. It was about the joy of meaningful connections that didn't have to come with expectations. Our friendship continued to grow, and I found myself more present in my own life. I stopped retreating into my safe space of solitude and began to open myself up to new experiences. I started to engage more with my neighbors, made plans to visit old friends, and even took up a hobby I had abandoned years ago. The unexpected visit from Marcus had sparked a change within me. And though he didn't know it, he had given me a precious gift, the gift of companionship and connection. It was a reminder that life is always full of surprises, and it's never too late to discover the joy of simply being present.